let's not kid ourselves. If Give Yourself Goosebumps hadn't existed, or hadn't been as successful as it was, then Alternamorphs would never have happened. Despite being very different in terms of content, Goosebumps proved the promotional and structural model that allowed Animorphs to reach its audience and be the second biggest success for Scholastic. The monthly releases, the book club advertising, the merchandising, the spin-off TV show, all of that wouldn't have happened if Goosebumps hadn't paved the way. And the same goes for the tie-in books. And man, Give Yourself Goosebumps really pulled it off. I've seen a healthy sample of people who say that they enjoyed this series more than the main Goosebumps books themselves. And there's always a few people disappointed because during my Goosebumps annual polls, I tend to rule out the Give Yourself series. Because, can you imagine me trying to pull this gimmicky shit more than once? What's interesting, however, is how little Alternamorphs actually lifts from Give Yourself Goosebumps. Outside of being game books, they're very different structures. They have a very different attitude and a very different relationship with their source material. Part of that probably has to do with the amount of experience each author has. Neither Kay Applegate nor the ghostwriters have any gamebook experience, at least no credits that I could find. R.L. Stine, on the other hand, had over a dozen gamebook credits before he started Goosebumps, including a lot of those Find Your Fate books we were just talking about. If you think R.L. Stine never used ghostwriters like he's always insisted, then by the end of Give Yourself Goosebumps, the man would have written 68 gamebook titles. This is a man who knows his craft. The first book of the series, Escape from the Carnival of Horrors, reads like a test lab for all the crazy ideas R.L. Stine had but couldn't implement into his commissioned work. Flipping through the book, the first thing to pop out at you is this wheel. This is supposed to represent a wheel of chance you play in the titular carnival, and the idea is that you close your eyes, point at a random spot, and whatever you land on shows you which page to turn to. You never saw this kind of thing in a choose-your-own-adventure book, at least none of the ones I read. But it doesn't stop there. On top of all the normal decisions you would make in these kind of books, there are several choices that are completely out of your hands. Is it sunny or raining outside? What day of the week is it? You have to do all these weird things like calculate what your weight would be on Mars or do in real-world dexterity tests, making your real-life physical presence a factor in the story. If you encounter a fortune teller, she'll give you 3 numbers which turn out to be a page number that you can use as a get-out-of-jail-free card. The book is constantly breaking the fourth wall and has a snarky sense of humor about it too, mocking cowardly choices and at one point vetoing a choice you make because there's no way for the story to progress that way. And the book has this weird, kind of, but not really in canon thing going on with the normal Goosebumps series. Things from Goosebumps, like the Doom Slide, Monster Blood, and Slappy, will appear in this book, but both you, the reader, and you, the book character, are aware of the normal Goosebumps books and can use knowledge of those books to get past obstacles. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Escape from the Carnival of Horrors is kind of a messy masterpiece of a game book. The rest of the Give Yourself Goosebumps series is noticeably tamer and more straightforward, choose-your-own-adventure-esque affairs. Probably the biggest letdown in the later books is that instead of bringing characters and artifacts from Goosebumps into the series, you usually just find yourself in a situation where you have to answer a Goosebumps trivia question. Lame. But how does all this compare to Alternamorphs? Poorly. Very, very poorly. Unlike the mad energy and Carnival of Horrors, you never get a feeling that anyone behind these books actually enjoy writing game books. This was probably just a commissioned affair in an attempt to recreate the success of the Goosebumps game books. The first Alternamorphs feels especially lazy. The only choices you get are what animals you morph at given points. Neither of them have especially complex choice paths, even compared to normal vanilla choose-your-own-adventure. I'm not saying they had to have been as twisty and meta as Carnival of Horrors, but they shouldn't induce yawns and become a routine. As for Alternamorph's relation to the original series, it's different between the two books. The first Alternomorphs doesn't require much knowledge of Animorphs beforehand. In fact, having read Animorphs can be a detriment in the second half of the book, where trying to recreate what happened in the regular series just gets you killed. The second Alternomorphs book is the exact opposite. You pretty much have to recreate 3 different Animorph books choice by choice in order to get the best endings. But at least there's no lame trivia questions. Really, Alternomorphs is just as much a footnote in the history of Goosebumps as it is for Animorphs. Alternomorphs is just a pale, empty imitator of what Give Yourself Goosebumps managed to accomplish, and wouldn't have existed if Scholastic hadn't made bank on R.L. Stine's work. I hate to say it, but Stine, you win this round.